Defensively, things needed to improve as well. Brandon Graham, first-round pick back in 2010, I think. He's been there forever. Here is Graham from yesterday with his assessment of the new coaches who are under Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia.
I really think that last year we just didn't. We that's what we didn't have. We didn't have all the right coaches in the right position. I would say, and you could just see the guys just truly believing in what we got going on. You just notice little stuff last year on certain stuff you wasn't on the same page about. Just here and there, it will pop up, but it popped up in a big way that last game, and it's just like anything I learned, you always want to make sure that we just had a proper communication. So there's a real big communication going on right now within the locker room, within on the field, in the classrooms. And, I know Howie was going to get it fixed. I'm more excited about, just because we do got Fangio, somebody experienced, real good. I'm not saying that anything about, the past, but it was just more like, you could just tell that everybody's on the same page about stuff.
As Pete points out, the question that was posed to Brandon Graham wasn't even about that. They didn't draw it out of him. He kind of went there on his own. The question was about the dynamics of the team after the retirement of Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey, and he went into this issue with coaches. Didn't have all the right coaches in the right position. That's an indictment. That gets back to, there was a day or two we wondered, was Nick Sirianni even going to survive? Remember that weird blend of negative emotions from Jeffrey Lurie and the luxury suite as they were getting embarrassed by the Buccaneers in the Super Wild Card round.
Yep.
Like, Sirianni, and so they made major changes. And, man, an indictment. What an indictment and criticism of the team from last year from one of its key leaders.
Well, yeah, it was lose Shane Steichen, get an offensive coordinator that, wasn't ready for prime time, right? Jonathan Gannon, all of that. We've discussed it at length in the past. They lost their chance to keep Vic Fangio, and they had to do the same thing on the defense. They had to put a guy there that was not ready for prime time as far as, what it takes on a week-to-week basis to run an NFL defense. And then that became all of a sudden, right, Matt Patricia's calling plays. And, so it was a disaster there. How can you be on the same page at the end of the year when you're changing your defensive coordinator? You didn't fire him, but you put him back up in the booth, and you make it by committee and all that. They were all over the place. And, yeah, Brandon Graham, of course, he's been on some defenses there in Philadelphia where, communication, being all over everything there is, of course, a huge part of your success. And, it just didn't work with Sean Desai, and that didn't work. And then, of course, Matt Patricia didn't work, and they totally lost their way. But I don't expect that this year, not with Vic Fangio. And then, again, you keep hearing these kind of things from Philadelphia. It's different, right? And Brandon Graham, that's what I think he's letting you know. Hey, there's a different energy, and we're all over everything right now with Vic Fangio. And that's where the Eagles are scary because we know the roster is phenomenal, right? Coaching, I think, failed them a little bit last year, no doubt about it. And then the players started to feel the pressure of that. And we're so good. How could we be losing? And they started to press and do dumb stuff too. And it just kind of snowballed out of control. But, I'm still looking at them this year to be a major, major Super Bowl contender.
One of the realities in Philadelphia, Howie Roseman has survived for a long, long time. He's been marginalized. He's been sent out of the building by Chip Kelly, yet he has more power than ever. And when you think about what he was looking at last year, if Nick Sirianni had gotten fired, and if they'd hired Bill Belichick, you think his day-to-day existence isn't going to change dramatically if Bill Belichick becomes the head coach? So it feels like Roseman really mobilized to work with Sirianni to fix things, and that's borne out by comments from Brandon Graham as it relates to the specific efforts of Roseman to help fix the coaching staff in Philadelphia. Have a listen to that.
Just, I feel like he always do what he do. He's the wizard, I say. Just, trying to figure it out on where we went wrong, being honest, having those hard conversations, and not scared to, make certain moves to make sure that, when you got a good team like we did and good players, sometimes it don't always reflect that because of us not being on the same page sometimes. He knew a lot of stuff. We all know we seen it, and I know he wanted to get it right because who want to look bad for playing for the Eagles? Because we got y'all. Let's go make sure y'all expose every little area that we not good. So I think he did a good job of just bringing the guys in, really bringing some real good, coaches that's really good. And, I'm excited to see where we go.
And, we talked earlier about the dynamics of beat reporters. Philadelphia, and we were talking about this off camera earlier, they are the one exception, and maybe the only one, where they will ask real follow-up questions. You don't have a bunch of reporters who go into the room with their one question that they want to get asked, and they're going to dramatically change the subject. If they're getting good stuff, they'll scrap the question that they had planned to ask or maybe come back to it later and ask the follow-up and get to good and they're aggressive. And I think it's a reflection of the fan base.
Exactly. They're like, we're all jerks.
I think if you don't approach the team that way, you're not going to last. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. They'll turn it on you.
Yeah.
Why aren't you asking that question?
Why aren't you tough enough
Jeff
to answer
McClain,
those questions, head coach? No, they are.
Yeah.
I respect that about Philly, no doubt about it. Their fans demand nothing less but honesty, and the beat writers and everybody following the game, ask them this damn question. I mean, they really are. And, again, they got a guy and a team right now that, for the most part here over the last decade or so has had all the right answers for the most part. But, yeah, it's an intriguing team. It really is. The team, the dynamic of it. Hey, we know how talented they are on paper, right? Yeah, Sirianni has certainly got a little bit of a spotlight on him this year because last year wasn't good. But I also think that Howie Roseman's smart enough to know that, hey, they got thrown a few curveballs, right, leading into the year with the defensive coordinator stuff that weren't necessarily fair to Nick Sirianni all the way there, right? But I think the coolest thing about it and all of that is just that, I don't know. I feel like it's the only team in football where you really feel like the GM is really calling the shots with everything, right? And really we know how awesome he is at building the football team, right? Now, the coaching part and all of that, hey, we'll see how good Howie is in that department. He's been pretty good, pretty damn good so far. That's for sure. But, yeah, it is odd or rare to hear about all the power he has there, Mike.
Well, I also believe one of the reasons he has survived as long as he has and thrived as long as he lets the owner stir the stew without it being obvious the owner is meddling. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's been in that job, because there's no guarantee if you hire a new GM, he's going to let you do, as the owner, whatever it is you want to do. Howie Roseman finds a way, I think, to placate, mollify, and also allow Jeff Lurie to be very involved in that team, even though most of us don't know it. Okay, let's take a break. When we return, the NFL Players Association supposedly wants to change the offseason schedule dramatically. Why can't we find a single player who's in favor of that? That's next here on PFT Live. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.